What's your name, please?
My name is Ernie Johnson Jr.
Ernie, where and when were you born?
Lubbock, Texas, 1943,
When did you move to Phoenix?
1954.
Tell me, do you have any brothers and sisters that in your family?
Yes, I have two brothers, five sisters, and my mom and dad. They're still here.
And what was your what was the reason that your family moved to Phoenix from Texas?
Well, it was because it was my dad felt like it was really hard for him to be successful in the working and stuff, and it was sort of a pretty racist place at that time. So a friend of his told him, he said, "Why don't you come to Phoenix, and that'd be a good place for the kids to have an education, you know." And so he moved us here, and it did work out because one of my sisters, she she went all the way through Motorola. She worked for about 34 years, and she's a big girl now. She got her a mansion now, and doing real well.
What was your first memories as far as singing, Ernie? What groups influenced you? It might have been the church. How did you get started singing?
Well, my father, he was involved with the Soul Stirrers, which Sam Cooke was the lead singer. And my father thought he had a beautiful voice, and he did, and he told me to say, "Bubba, you just listen to that voice right there, and say you'll be all right." He said, "Just listen to Sam." And I did, and I learned him to the max. I sounded just like him, and Sam Cooke had decided to do some rock and roll. They had talked him into doing that, and his brother wrote this song called "Darling You Send Me," and it sold me a copy. Sam was over, and Johnny Taylor was up next. He was with the Highway QCs out of Chicago, and he was going to take Sam's place. But just before they came through Phoenix, the Soul Stirrers, and they asked me to open up the show. Me and my dad had a group.
And what was the name of that group, Ernie?
The group I was Crusaders.
The
We
Crusaders.
was the Crusaders, and we sound just like the Soul Stirrers. And Johnny Taylor came from the back of the stage and looked out, because I was doing a song by Johnny Taylor, the Soul Stirrers. It was called "The Love of God."
Yeah.
And
Classic
and
song.
he thought he was out there already. He said, "Man, that youngster can sing." And I said, "Daddy," I said, would you let me go with the Soul Stirrers? Because Johnny couldn't start singing rock and roll too. He said, "No, you're too young." I was 13 years old.
And
And he wouldn't let me go. I cried like a baby.
now, when did you first meet Eddie Campbell?
I met Edgar, I met his brother first, and they was, him and my dad was singing around, and they sort of put Edgar in and we started harmonizing and stuff. Found out that me and him had a lot of talent alike. So we ended up going on a tour, with the Phoenix All-Stars, and came out good, but we wasn't making no money. We got stranded down there and everything, and came on back to Phoenix, and Eddie he said, "Look," he said, "Ernie," he said, "why don't we try to do some rock and roll, Let's try to write a song or something." So we wrote this song, "Time Waits for No One."
Time waits for no one.
And we sent it to, we ran into this dude named, he was with a gospel group called the Consolators. And he said, "Well, I'll take the CD and send it to Los Angeles and see what happens." I mean, send it to New York
New
to
York.
Sue Records,
Juggy.
Juggy Murray. And so we did, and Juggy said, "Well, this sounds pretty good." And we said, "We'll give it a try." So he went on, and the song, whoop, just boomed in New York City. Went up to, we was number one. In '65, the record was number one for 2 weeks, And we was all scared and thought that they were going to throw, eggs and stuff at us, but we didn't realize that the record was number one for 2 weeks, and when we hit the time with 101, I went one way, Eddie went the other way, and we just tore it up
Now this is at the
at the
Apollo.
Apollo Theater.
Right.
Right.
Now before we get there though, you made a record here with some folks and
Little Whirly and the
Little
Drops.
Whirly and the Drops, man.
That's right.
You
we
were
were
a
the
drop.
Drops.
Right.
We did that for Whirly because Whirly had always wanted to sing. He never was controllable, but he had that heart of wanting to be. So we let him do one of the songs
Now,
on the CD.
one of the things before we start getting into some of your great records, unlike Sam and Dave, some of the other duos, you and Eddie wrote your own songs and you
arranged.
were able to interpret them. Tell me how you guys wrote. How did the two of you come up with your ideas? And Time Waits for No One is such a classic song. I mean, it speaks to everyone, and it's basic, and it really has a
Spiritually
powerful message. And how did you guys work together in writing your songs?
Well, Eddie played guitar, rhythm, real good, and we just ventured off into it. We just started trying to put the words together and stuff, and it just worked out real easy because Eddie and I was really, really close. He had 7 brothers, and his mom made room for us. We had 4 beds, all boys, and I left my mother's house to be with him so we could practice. And finally we kept practicing and we came up with the word. We kept writing, and finally we made it blend, Time Waits for No One.
Yeah.
And we went to LA, and he knew this guy with the Gospel Constellations or something. And the dude, he had us to do it on a little tape and stuff.
Right,
And
little
Juggy
demo.
liked it. He said, yeah, we'll bring him to New York. And the next thing we knew, after the thing went down, we got a letter in Phoenix saying, you guys are booked for the Apollo Theater in New York City. Here's your plane ticket, round trip ticket, if you want to come home. But, so we don't know if you want to come. But anyway, we jumped on the plane. I'd never been in a plane before. I'm sitting up there. Eddie either, but Eddie was the type of guy that learned real fast. He said, here you a little dip of Jack Daniels and Coke. And don't worry about it. So we going in there. We finna go to New York City, man. So you're a few years younger than me, but I have patience. He said, I got you. So the Lord will take us on through that.
Yeah.
And he did.
Because you guys were about 4 years apart, right?
Yeah, he's 4 years older.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Go ahead. Cool that whistle, man. Now, what was it like, playing the Apollo for the first time? That must have been a thrill.
We were really nervous but after we hit it, after we said, whoa, time waits, and they went,
Yeah.
the people went up in there.
Yeah.
And the girls was climbing the stage and stuff,
Yeah.
the police were pulling them away, and we hit hands. He went that way, and I went that way, and we tore it up.
Did the house band back you up, or do you remember, was it
We had
Ken
a house
Curtis?
band.
And so they were the ones that were providing the background on
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And it turned out good,
Yeah.
really good.
It was great stuff.
Yeah, we was with Gene Chandler, Rainbow 65. We was with Wilson Pickett. We was with the Contour, Do You Love Me?
Yeah.
And we was with Chuck Jackson, Walter Jackson, Patty and the Bluebells. We was with them. Patty was, she was had 2 more ladies with her. But after they left, the Apollo, she ended up as getting by herself, and the LaBelles went by themselves.
Right, right.
But Patty was successful.
Yeah. Now back in Phoenix tonight, we've been talking to some of the, like Rich Casey and Alvin and Bernard and the Blazers, and you did you see them? You grew up with them, right? And they you remember seeing them here at the Elks Club performing in that?
Tell me about
those
we did.
days.
We did shows here also. We didn't come around to the back. It was a line that way coming this way, and a line the other way. You couldn't hardly get in the Elks. When Eddie and Ernie was here, you could Sunday nights pack out.
Yeah.
Pack out. It was like the Apollo Theater. Yeah, we were stars at home.
You were
Eddie
stars
and
at home.
Eddie and Ernie.
Yes, indeed.
And later on, Dyke, Dyke and the Blazers, they was getting their stuff together.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah,
So they record went bam. You know, I'm riding in Atlanta, Georgia, or somewhere off in there, and I heard Dyke and the Blazers record.
yeah.
You know, I said, oh, I said, these guys are really making it, you know.
Yeah.
But we was right behind them, you know.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
they went before we did. They went
Yeah.
to the Apollo and everything.
Talk about some of those early days after between the gospel and and getting into the secular music. I know your dad was a minister, and he probably was he for it. I mean, I know he was the one that put you and Eddie together because
Right.
your voices sounded so great together. But
Right.
he probably wanted you to do gospel, really, didn't he?
He did. My dad told me years ago, he told me to say, you need to go to college and get your degree in music. He said, actually, you don't need nobody to sing with you, but you love him so much and you want y'all to be together, so be together. But put your heart and soul up into it. You know, whatever you do, and keep God first.
Yeah.
He say, and you'll be successful. You know. James Brown, what's his name? James Brown was with Motown at this time. What's
King
his name?
was King at the time.
What was Barry Gordy?
Berry Gordy was Motown.
Barry Gordy talked to my dad. Say, I would like for you to get Eddie and Ernie to come over and talk to me. I sent them a plane ticket, and I'd like for them to work on the road with me with James Brown. Eddie said no. Said we don't need James Brown. Said we're stars. I said, man, I said, look, Eddie, I said, that dude on the chart, man, he all over the world. What you talking about? Nobody know nothing about us. He said, yeah, but said, we don't need him, man. We youngsters, man. We gonna make it. We don't need James Brown. Let him go ahead by himself. So we didn't I went along with him, and that was a downer. We should have went with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we missed out on that. We missed out on a lot of things for being young and hard-headed.
Yeah.
And for not going to school to get an education. See, we signed contracts that we couldn't see the fine print. We signed 20 years of our life away. This stuff has just been over with maybe 5 years ago, that we out of it,
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about them no more.
Well, but it must be now that you've got a CD out of your music, it must be a thrill to be able to have all of that music and all of those memories on one album.
It
because
is.
There were some amazing songs on there.
Yeah, it's a blessing, And I look back at P. James, he's a school teacher. I look at Vic Parker, who was with the Sensational Nightingales, who was had gave his life to God at one time, but then he strayed away and he ran into the wrong people and got into the wrong thing and lost his life. It makes me feel that I should do something for the Lord.
Yes.
And so the Lord came to me and told me, say, I want you to spread my name in gospel songs, saying you will rise as one of the greatest spiritual singers in the world. And I believe that, and I went on and I wrote these songs. I was telling you, singing a few of those songs to you. And they're so beautiful. The little kids at my church, like this, they're singing my songs, and we ain't even put them on record. Man, you come to the church,
Now,
the power of God is in there, man.
speaking of people singing your songs, you told me once a story of when you were at the Apollo, you went to the Wednesday night, you went to the amateur contest. Tell me that story.
What happened was, we on Wednesday nights at the Apollo Theater, they have amateur hours. So what happened was, two little girls got up on the stage and they sang a song that was a hit in New York City by Eddie and Ernie called I'm Going for Myself. And they did this song and they won. They won amateur night. And I cried like a baby because it sounds just like a two little girls, about like that.
And you were
8,
standing
9
at the
years
side of
old.
the stage
I'm
watching
looking at
this.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
Me and Gene Chandler, I was
Yeah.
sitting looking at it. I said, Lord,
Yeah.
have mercy. And I cried, I
Yeah.
cried.
Hey,
It
tell me a
really
little
touched
bit,
me.
some more of the Phoenix. You played another band you were here with in Phoenix was Al Reed and the Phoenix Express. Tell me a little bit
Al
about
Reed and the Pipers.
and the Pipers.
That's who we were,
Okay,
huh?
yeah. Okay, the Pipers, right?
Okay, we was here at the Elks. Now this is where
71, maybe
yeah
a little
we
later.
draw the crowd. If you didn't come here about 7 or 8 o'clock, you couldn't get in the Elks.
Yeah.
It was packed,
Yeah.
just like that. You
Yeah.
know, like the American Legion is right now.
Right.
And I made that crowd right there,
Yeah.
doing karaoke.
Yeah.
And but nobody said, Sweetwater, we love what you're doing. Here's a piece of money or something. Nobody.
Yeah.
People seem to, when they get a little money or something, they start acting funny.
Yeah.
And I'm not that type of person. I told them, I said, I build a club, I build it. Every club I go to, I build it. People start coming. Because they say, you don't just sing Sweetwater, that's my name now. They say, you perform. Say, you put your heart into it and you touch people.
Yeah.
As long as a person got God with them and you put your whole heart and soul in it, you're going to touch somebody.
It's a beautiful thing.
Somebody's going to come up and tell you, say,
great.
hey, the Lord is working in you.
Great.
And I know it, that's why I'm going to do this CD. It's Spiritual Rock. And the title track is called Hello, God. I don't know what blessed company is going to get it, but it's wide open, and
Yeah.
I have to read the mail from you
do.
before I sign anything.
Do. Now, tell me about the love that you had, that you and Eddie had, because you've told me many times that's why your songs sound so much better, because number one, you wrote them, and number two, you two guys really were tight, were like brothers.
We like brothers. We like brothers, man. Everywhere we went, we used to get up in the morning, and you would if you seen Eddie, you seen Herman. We was always together, always. We went shopping together. We went girl playing together. We went wherever. We was always together. And if you didn't accept him, you didn't accept neither one of them, because we was as one. We was as one.
Yeah.
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 We were very close. His own brother said, dog, man, you act like he your brother or something, like he better than we are. He said, no, it's not that. He said, it's not that. He said, I love y'all. He said, but something is special for me and him, and we have to do our work. One day you'll understand and realize why we're so tight. God put us together.
Of all the songs that the two of you recorded together, Ernie, what is your favorite Eddie and Ernie song? If there was one song that I could play for someone who's never heard of Eddie and Ernie, what would be your choice?
Let's see. It was a song somewhat like, what's those guys? It's two duet. They're duets.
Sam and Dave.
No. Not even Sam and Dave. These Caucasians.
Oh, the Righteous Brothers.
The Everly Brothers.
The Everly Brothers.
We did a thing called Lost Friends. That's my favorite song. And that's the title of the CD. Lost Friends. And if you look back and go back and hear the Everly Brothers, then you say, oh, that's where they got that from, because we love the Everly Brothers.
That
We
was
loved them.
Great.
And we picked up, we just played with this stuff.
Great.
You know, but they were so great, man. Them guys were great. They was hitting the minor chords and stuff. You know, the arrangement, they were the best. I thought they were the best Caucasian duet in the world.
So that was a big influence on
It
Eddie
was
and
a
Ernie.
big influence for us, yeah. It really was.
Cool. Great.